Welcome to a four-part series to give you an introduction to both Lean and Six Sigma. If you have registered for our Lean Six Sigma White Belt certification course, you will receive a Lean Six Sigma White Belt certificate once you complete all four modules and pass a final exam. You will see a link to the registration at the end of this course. My name is Kevin Clay, and I will be your program leader for today. Let's get started. Let's briefly go over the course agenda for this module. I'll start out with an introduction to both myself, Kevin Clay, and our firm, Six Sigma Development Solutions Incorporated. I then want to get a baseline for how you would improve a process by showing you a video and getting your feedback. This video is of a process in a company called First Data. I will also show you the unimproved or current state and get your feedback of how to improve this process. Next, I will show you a video of how they being First Data, actually improved the process. We will then move into a basic introduction to the Lean methodology. We will cover the goals for the Lean implementation. We will also cover how Lean looks at cost and profit. Let's move on. A question you might be asking yourself is, who is this gentleman instructing us? What are his credentials? Well, excellent question. My name is Kevin Clay, and I am the president of Six Sigma Development Solutions. I am a Six Sigma Master Black Belt and a Lean Master Practitioner. I use the word master lightly because I truly do not think there is one. I find that the more you know, the more there is to know. It is a never-ending learning process. On this slide, you might see my email as well as my personal mobile number. If you have any questions about any of the topics that we cover in this course, please do not hesitate to email, text, or call me. Myself and my colleagues pride ourselves as mentors and teachers that are available to answer your questions. I have had the benefit of being a Lean and Six Sigma practitioner for over 17 years. In these 17 years, I have gained operational experience in many different disciplines. Disciplines such as manufacturing, distribution, processing, finance, retail sales, insurance, healthcare, IT, nonprofits, local and state governments, and many national governments. Myself and my colleagues have experienced many different processes and cultures. This makes us very effective teachers, mentors, and consultants. I have personally instructed over 500 plus change agents across the many disciplines that we have just discussed. I've led over 15 implementations in both domestic and global organizations. I have led or mentored over 80 Six Sigma industrial and transactional projects, and facilitated over 110 Kaizen and workout projects for industrial, service, and healthcare environments. How do these credentials benefit you as a student? When my colleagues and I teach the Lean and Six Sigma methodologies, we back up these concepts with real-world stories of how these tools actually work. Comments on our course evaluations follow a consistent theme. These comments basically are, it's like you've been in my facility and you know my organization's problems. Well, we may not have been in your facility, but we have seen many processes with the same issues. Before we start discussing Lean and Six Sigma, I would like to get a baseline for how you would improve a process. We are going to watch a video, which I have included on the next slide. This video is of a process to certify a Western Union vendor. First Data, who acquired Western Union in 1995, was taking a range of 19 to 59 days to certify a Western Union vendor. This was unacceptable to First Data. Imagine that you are a gas station owner. Your business started in a rural area. There recently has been a lot of development in your area. Apartment complexes, housing developments, and storefronts are popping up all over the place. A local resident comes into your gas station and asks if you can send money to her brother in Mexico. You have not previously thought of the revenue stream that can come from being certified to transfer money. Being a good entrepreneur, you do not say no. Instead, you tell her that you are in the process of getting certified and would she please come back in a few days. When she leaves, you contact First Data to get the process of getting certified started. 19 to 59 days later, you finally get certified with Western Union. What can happen if that young lady came in every other day to check on the status of your certification and you tell her that it's still not complete? Does she have another option? Of course she does. You're not the only game in town. She can decide to go to another provider, one that is already certified. First Data was losing business because of this long lead time for the certification process. The video on the next slide is of that certification process in its unimproved state. I would like for you to watch the video and take notes. I would like for you to identify steps in the process that waste time and resources. I would also like for you to post your findings on Twitter or Facebook with the hashtag SSDSI. You'll see that hashtag up in the upper right hand corner of each of our slides in this course. Now let's watch the video.
Western Union's business is growing fast. In order to grow as fast as we need to, we must set up agents such as convenience stores at the rate of 30 per day or 10,000 per year. Until recently, the process of signing up and activating agents took far, far too long and went something like this. A sale is made, the contract signed, and a new agent is ready to come on board. So the application is overnighted to the office. The overnight mail is received in the mailroom where it then waits. Since the mail consists of all kinds of packages and express deliveries and is not just new contracts, someone has to go through it and sort it all out. Once sorted, the mail delivery person has to group the packets for delivery to the right people at the right location. Arriving at the right location, the packets are removed from the cart and dropped off in the in-basket of the person who is actually going to receive the contracts, where it waits for that person to get to them. When the packets are retrieved from the in-basket, that person again sorts them into groups, opens each of the packages, and then has to sort within the packages. There's a lot of sorting going on here. Then there's the process of counting how many she received, so she can log all of them in on a header sheet created for each one of the individual contracts. This internal paperwork is basically a checklist to ensure that everything that needs to be done to the contract has been done. And of course, to save time, one header sheet works for multiple purposes, so she has to go to the copier. And as you know, there's always people using the copier, so wait at the copier. Now use the copier, and if it's working, she's okay. So she walks back to her desk to separate the documents. The next step is the process of searching to see if this new customer or agent is actually a new agent, or if they're a sub-agent or a different branch of a current agent, so she's got to check the system. That allows her to complete the header sheet and attach the header sheet to the contract. Now she starts entering the information from the document. She then has to review several lists, one of which is a list of legal requirements. And to create a nice file for all this paperwork, she prints some labels, and then she starts the credit check, prints a credit report, staples the credit report to the other papers, which she puts into a folder, and labels the folder. She will complete several contracts for several clients which wait in a stack until the entire batch gets transported to the next process. What has been done so far is a lot of clerical prep work. Now the basic paper and information is dropped off into a business group where it waits until that person has time to get to them. This person picks up the files one at a time and goes through a review process for each file. He will review his OFAC list, and because he is a higher skilled business analyst analyzing the contract, he will record the information he finds necessary. He then must check an MG list, which is a legal requirement guarding against competitive infringements. He continues to record his comments, and after everything looks okay, this business person executes the contract by signing the contract. He reassembles the files back together and puts them back on the file stack again, where they will wait again. Eventually, he will carry the files back to an area that is actually adjacent to where it started and drops them off in a stack there, where they wait. The stack is picked up again and sorted again because the next process requires that they be organized a bit differently, then carried back to her desk. She selects a file, and because this contract has been approved through all the basic credit and other requirements, she must update the system by entering more data to get them set up. The contract is now issued an account number, and all the information is transferred back to the paperwork to keep a good paper trail. She reorganizes the file according to what needs to be done for the next process. Then transfers the count numbers to all the forms, including the folder, puts the folder back together, and emails the approval so that everybody in the sales organization and in the field will know that this person is approved and will be contacted in the near future to get them all set up. She then stacks the files as completed, again creating another large batch that will of course wait there until they're ready to go to the next process. Now she'll deliver the files to the compliance area, drop the files off there, where they wait for that person to pick them up. The compliance person counts them to see how many they received, and she records the count information to keep track of the account. She'll then put the new accounts in the back of the stack, which is set up to do first in, first out, where they will wait until they get queued up all the way to the front of the stack to be worked on. She'll select the file that's in the front and carry them to her workstation, where she reviews the file. Then she sorts through the file and gets ready to make the contact with the client. She must then create her own header page for some additional information so we can determine the training or target date. She'll record the dates targeted for training, finish the data entry of information needed in the system, order the equipment, and order the checks and supplies. Now she'll make a welcome call, which is the first contact with the customer since the contract was signed by the sales agent in the field. If by chance she can't get a hold of that person on the phone, she must set it aside, wait, and call again and again until the call is successful. We want to verify the customer's information, make sure that we've got everything right, and while they're on the phone, training is scheduled. When the welcome call is completed, she emails sales and support to notify them of the training date, and everything should be set up and ready to go. Next, she will assign the file, transfer the file to a box, take the box to the file room to file this large box, which brings us to the end of the process. The average lead time of this process, from the time the contract was signed to completion, was 19 days.
What steps in the process did you see that wasted time and resources? Again, I would also like for you to post your findings on Twitter or Facebook with the hashtag SSDSI. You can compare your findings to other students, and you can also generate conversations about those findings. How would you improve the process given the goal of reducing 75% of the lead time of this certification process? The video on the next slide is of the actual improved certification process, where they not only met the goal of 75% reduction in lead time, but they actually exceeded it. You will be amazed at the transformation. Now, let's watch the video.
Our team was challenged with cutting the lead time by 75%. This forced them to think outside the box because simply improving the current process would not begin to reach that goal. After applying Six Sigma principles, the process now looks something like this. In the new process, the first thing that happens is a phone call. At this time, the recording of the agent data is immediately started hands-free on a speakerphone. All the information and details necessary are recorded and verified at the same time. We can now go ahead and pull the credit report while the prospective agent is still on the phone. And by using standardized scoring rules, a credit score can be determined right then and there. The credit report still has to be printed to keep a record of it, and the OFAC list still has to be reviewed for legal requirements as well as the MG list. We are getting all the information, getting it correct and verified at the same time. At this point, all of the basic requirements, legal requirements, and credit requirements have been met, and within 10 to 15 minutes, the agent is approved. Now we can assign an agent number, key in some basic product information, and some banking information we need. Then we can go right on to schedule and commit to a training date. All the details are finalized and the phone call is complete. Offline, the equipment and supplies are ordered and shipped to meet the training date. All of the training dates and times are then emailed to let everybody know what's happened. And we are done, with a total lead time average of 22 minutes.
So now we're going to talk about, in more depth, what is Lean and Six Sigma. All right, what are these two methodologies? And you'll see that we call Lean Enterprise. A lot of people have this misjudgment of Lean that it's called Lean Manufacturing. Lean doesn't care anything about manufacturing. Lean doesn't care about what discipline you're in. When you put Lean into place, Lean just cares about waste. And waste, as you saw in the first stated video, can exist in manufacturing, in transactional services, in healthcare, in retail sales, in churches, in the home. It can exist anywhere. And we're also going to talk about Six Sigma. Now, we're not going to talk in great detail about Six Sigma. I'm going to get you to a point where you understand truly what Six Sigma is about, and that's really going to tell you the power of Six Sigma. Now, we teach these two methodologies separately, Lean and Six Sigma, because they are two separate methodologies. One is really, Lean is about speed to market. It is about streamlining the process, so instead of taking 19 days, it takes that 23 minutes by reducing that complexity. Six Sigma is really about understanding why a defect happens, why something is happening in the process that causes the output, the end result, to not meet customers' requirements. All right, it's about consistency. It's about optimization to make sure that our process happens consistently the same way over and over again, producing little to no defects. And we're going to see later on how really powerful this can be. So, let's talk about Lean. The two most important words on this slide are the first two in the first paragraph. Excuse me. Lean thinking. Lean thinking considers the life cycle of materials, products, transactions, and information. When I say life cycle, what I mean is lead time. All right, what I mean is lead time. So I tend to think of lead time like a pipe. Think of a 3-foot length of steel pipe. All right. We can only go in one side of that pipe, and we can only exit out of the opposite side of that pipe. And once you're in the pipe, you have to regress to the end. You have to exit out the other end. And that pipe, in this case, is a certain length. All right, pipe can be any length, but in this case, it's a certain length. All right, and it takes a certain amount of time to get through that pipe. So, in Lean, in those who understand both the Lean and Six Sigma, especially in Six Sigma, we kind of think of everything as as somewhat of an equation. Most people kind of get scared about that word, an equation. Right? Don't be scared by this word equation. Our job as facilitators within my company, myself and my colleagues, we don't really try and scare people with deep, complex math. But we do show you some of the basic equations that really deal with both Six Sigma Lean. So there's an equation that comes into this lead time. And lead time is equal to WIP over exit rate. All right, you might want to write this down. If you got a notepad, write it down. If you don't, I would suggest getting a notepad and taking some notes. Lead time equals WIP over exit rate. WIP stands for work in progress. All right, the amount of stuff in the pipe. That's work in progress. It's in the progress of getting from the beginning to the end. All right, exit rate is the rate at which I exit out of the pipe. So let's look at that in more of a layman's terms example. Let's think of a Disney World or Disneyland. My dad was a former Marine. I grew up as a dependent in the Marine Corps, and we lived on the one side of the U.S., the East Coast or the West Coast. So I myself and my sisters, we hounded our dad every year to take us to either Disney World or Disneyland on spring break. Now, he would never take us to it on spring break, but he would take us, sometime during March. So he said, "Well, I will take you to Disney World or Disneyland, but I get to pick the time." And he usually picked the time right when the park opened up. A lot of times the rides were closed, or I'm sorry, the water rides were closed. And some of the other rides were closed, so not a lot of people there when they first opened, because my dad didn't really like to stand in line. So let's say I'm at Space Mountain and I'm in line, and there's a process pipe in this case, and the length of the pipe at this pipe is basically the length of those steel bars that go back and forth. All right, so think of that as the pipe. All right, so it doesn't matter when the park's open. There's still, that length of steel bars that go back and forth. And in this case, let's say there are only 60 people in line. All right, there's one person seating 2 people per minute. So if I'm the 60th person in line, then it's going to take me how long to get seated? Okay, hopefully you answered. It's going to take me 30 minutes. All right, it's going to take me 30 minutes of sitting there in line. Let's think about what happens if I go there in late August. All right, there's not going to be 60 people in line, but maybe 240 people in line. Still, one person seating 2 people per minute, same exit rate. If there's 240 people in line and one person seating 2 people per minute, how long is it going to take me to get to the beginning of the line and get seated? It's going to take me now a couple of hours. So the exit rate stayed the same. But WIP increased. All right, and when WIP increased, what happened to the amount of time I was in the pipe? All of a sudden, the amount of time I was in the pipe increased exponentially. So, and this goes to show you that as I increase WIP, my process cycle time, or my lead time, goes up. All right. If I reduce the exit rate, my time will go up. Now, most companies increase the exit rate. They do that by hiring more people. What kind of a detriment to that does that have on your bottom line? Okay, but that's how companies deal with this. Let's just hire more people to deal with this. Let's hire temps to deal with this influx of demand, and then we'll fire them once the demand goes away. So it was funny. Disney World, or the Disney Corporation, had some very forward-thinking people. Well, let's talk about what the detriment was of people standing in line before I talk about how they fixed it. While you're standing in line, what are you not doing? Right, you're not making money. All right. So if I'm standing in line for 2 hours, that 2 hours makes it very hard for me to go out while I'm standing in line. Go out and go to the restaurants, go to the gift shops, buy things from each of the any of the kiosks. I can't do that. So there were some very forward-thinking people in the Disney Corporation that recognized this and found out that they had literally lost what I believe to be billions of dollars in people that were standing in line, and they said, we have to fix this. So what they did, what they came up with was this concept. Most of you may have already thought of how they improved the process, but they instituted something called a fast pass. And think of this fast pass all of a sudden took about 95% of the wait time out of the process. Took 95% of the wait time out of the process, because now with this fast pass, I can walk up to a ride, register my fast pass for the ride, and instead of waiting in line, I can then go and spend money and spend time and spend the resources I have at other places while I'm waiting in line. So now I'm doing what's called a concurrent process. This altering of the way that the Disney Corporation thought for many years, because before that they said, well, you have to stay in the line. How else are you going to be prioritized for the ride? And they thought that way for a long time, because nobody could get out of that way of thinking. Nobody could alter their way of thinking. Then these few forward-thinking people came in and said, let's put this in place. And it revolutionized what they did. Increased their profits by a huge amount. So, in order to get to that point, the Disney Corporation had to think differently. All right, had to think differently, and in Lean, we call that lean thinking, a new way to look at things, a different pair of glasses. All right, I'm sure you've seen many times that one of my favorite quotes is, "We can't solve problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." And I see this happening so many times in many organizations, is that the same people or the same group of people that created the problem are tasked with solving the problem. But there's no new knowledge. So with no new knowledge, solving the problem with the same thinking that got you into the problem gets you the same results. So think of another saying. What is the definition of insanity? You got it. Definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, but expect different results. All right. So that's where lean is a way of thinking that helps you, gives you a different box to look at the process in. The goal of lean is to minimize work, to minimize complexity, to minimize steps, and on non-value-added activities, all right, to increase value and reduce opportunities for defects and errors. So let's talk about this. If I've got a 100-step process to certify my Western Union vendor. Okay, and I go in using this lean methodology, and I find out that most of these steps don't add any value to the customer. And then using this methodology, I find out a way to get rid of the steps. All right, not all steps, and you won't get rid of all of the waste in the process, but you can significantly reduce waste. So let's say I turn that 100-step process into a 5-step process. Now I've got rid of 95 steps. So if each of those steps cost $1, I've reduced the cost of the operating costs of that process, that transaction, that service that I'm building. I've reduced the cost to build that by $95. Let's say each step took a minute. I've taken 95 minutes out of the process. I've increased the capacity by 95 minutes. I now have this freed up space of time that I can do other things. All right? And hopefully those other things that I do are going to add value. And another one we talk about is how do I increase quality? Because think about it. If I take 95 steps out of the process, I want to make sure that I'm not impeding quality by doing that. All right? I can shorten up a process very easily by taking just steps out of it. But those steps might be steps that are part of what makes it a quality process. I don't want to do that. I don't want to rob from Peter to pay Paul. So when I reduce that down to a 5-step process, my quality better stay the same or get better. So how do I increase quality by reducing steps? Well, think about it. Every time that I touch something, every step of the process, what do I have the potential to do? I have the potential to screw it up. I have the potential to create defects. So, another benefit of lean is when I do all these things, when I reduce costs, I increase capacity, I increase quality. By relation, my customer satisfaction increases, and again, my costs decrease. And it's funny when I watch this video. I do a lot of projects in say union organizations. I a lot of time get the question, this question. Well, Kevin, what did you do with all the other people that were in the process? Did you fire them? And I just never understand why they say that. No, I didn't fire them. We retrain them because now all of them know every step of the process. All right? They all know every step of the process. So now they become more valuable to the company because not only are they trained in one thing, but they're trained in many things. And also, when you go from a 19-day process down to a 20 to 23-minute process, and now I'm that same service station. I've got a potential client, from walked over from the apartment complex across the street, and he says, you know what, I need to send money to Canada to my family, and I say, I tell you what, come back in an hour, and I'll help you out. He leaves. I call up Western Union. Within 23 minutes, I'm certified. When he comes back, I'm ready to go. How powerful is that? How powerful is that for word of mouth? I'm going to go to a chamber event meeting. I'm going to tell other people to do what I do, but they're not in direct competition with me. I'm going to tell them about what the benefit is, and they're going to do the same thing. This process, this first data process, it's one of the processes that made Western Union one of the most powerful, one of the premier money transaction companies in the world. So what are the goals for lean implementation? What are the goals? Well, the number one goal, the first and foremost goal of a lean implementation is to eliminate waste. In Japanese, waste is called muda. And the reason we tend to use Japanese terms is lean was kind of formalized by Toyota. It wasn't invented. It wasn't created by Toyota, but it was really formalized by Toyota. A lot of methodologies kind of melded together. So again, to eliminate waste, that's the first goal. Eliminate complexity. If you do that, you will significantly shorten cycle times. I can tell you story after story of doing this in many different organizations: banking, healthcare, manufacturing. It can happen anywhere. So as you take steps out of the process, you're going to significantly shorten that cycle time. You're going to improve quality. As you take steps out of the process, you're going to have less times that you touch it. You're going to reduce those operating costs. So if each step costs $1 and you take 95 steps out of a 100-step process, you've basically cut the operating cost by 95%. And then we really didn't talk about managing inventory effectively. But think about it. The more complexity you have, the more steps, the more stuff that you have to do within the process, the more that you're going to have in order to manage the process. So think about this. In a server process, I have to have information. I have to have forms. I have to have files. I have to have databases. I have to have this huge complexity in order to manage this. The more steps I take out of the process, less inventory in all of these things that I have to have in order to manage that. So the whole point of lean is to get rid of the complexity, get back to simplicity. All right, and we'll eventually talk about how we do that. Lean and reduction of cost. Most companies look at cost in a traditional sense. That is, cost plus profit equals price. All right, so most companies look at this yellow bar. All right, you'll see it on the left-hand side, and that bar is cost, and we call it CODB. Actually, it's called CODB, cost of doing business. And then companies put a price on their product, all right, and that price is really what the market will bear. So in between cost and that price, that's our margin. All right. So what happens if cost increases? What happens if utilities increase? Cost of insurance increases. Just the cost of doing business increases. Without raising our price, all of a sudden our margin is going to suffer. Our profit margin is going to suffer. So, there's really, companies kind of deal with this in a couple of ways. Well, they can either beg, steal, and borrow, and call the customer and say, the times are getting tough. I need to increase my price. We've got to pay higher insurance. We've got to pay more taxes. We've got to pay just inflation's going up. So we have to raise our price to you. And the customer can say, I like you, but I don't like you that much, and go somewhere else. Now we can also, a lot of companies deal with this. another way, and I'm sure all of you have probably seen this, where the customer, or I'm sorry, the vendor says, they actually follow this vicious cycle. The vicious cycle goes: costs have increased. We're accountable to our stakeholders, so we need to somehow increase or gain that margin back. So in order to do that, we chop heads. Politically, that's called reduction of FTEs. So we do that, and now we have one person doing the job of two. All right. So now that I've got one person doing the job of two, all of a sudden my quality goes down. Well, obviously, because now I'm having to do a lot more work. I'm making mistakes, defects, etc. So the quality goes down. Now, when quality goes down, my costs go up, because now I have to incur warranty costs. I have to do rework. I have to put more steps in the process to make sure that we don't have those quality problems. All right, and this, when the cost goes up, guess what? Our stakeholders have to be appeased, right? So again, we cut heads. Now we got one person doing the job of three. Quality goes down exponentially. All right, costs go up exponentially. So you see here, we've got a vicious cycle, and this is really the traditional way of doing things. In Lean, we don't look at that. We don't look at that scenario like that. We look at, but looking at the cost, we say, 95% of that cost shouldn't be there. 95% of that cost, of that complexity, that's waste. And that's waste that we can regain, that we can get back. We can increase capacity, we can reduce cost, we can increase quality. As we do this, cost goes down. Haven't raised the price at all. Cost goes down. So therefore, we not only regain our margin, but we actually increase it. There are a lot of companies that have done this over the years that have really seen this epiphany to say, let's not raise our price. Let's look internally to our process and regain our benefit there. A lot of people ask me, Kevin, what do you do? What is this Lean and Six Sigma thing? And I tell them, well, in a very short sense, both Lean and Six Sigma help. I help companies and I help teach other people how to do this, but I help companies to regain margin, to regain profit without increasing sales. There's only one way you can do that. Well, you can fire people to do that, but that's not going to help you. But the one way we do that in a positive sense is to look internally to your processes, and it has an amazing result.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "The only thing more expensive than education is ignorance." I engage companies every day that have finally come to this realization. This is the point at which these companies start to transform. By completing this module, you have taken a step towards transforming your future and your success. If you have questions or comments about this module or any of the contents, please post them to Twitter or Facebook with the hashtag SSDSI, or you can also call, text, or email me directly. For those of you who are pursuing your Lean Six Sigma White Belt certification, let's go over the requirements. To become formally certified as a Lean Six Sigma White Belt, you must complete all 4 of the Lean Six Sigma White Belt modules. You will also be required to complete a final exam.
This exam will be comprised of 20 questions with a passing grade of 75%, or 15 out of 20 questions correctly answered. You will have 40 minutes to complete the exam. Once you pass the exam, you will immediately get access to a formal Lean Six Sigma White Belt certificate. To register for the exam and the immediate issuing of the Lean Six Sigma White Belt certification, upon successfully passing the exam, please browse out to the link provided in the slide. If you're accessing this course through YouTube, then the link to register for the course is in the notes below. You can click any icon that resembles a lowercase I that is inside of a white circle in the upper right hand side of this video. This icon is also a link to the registration page. If you're accessing this video through YouTube, please like this video by clicking on the thumbs up and leave us a comment. Thank you for attending our course, and we hope you will continue with our other informative courses.